Empire.
We're assessing the NFL draft with the help of a longtime NFL coach. What's up, everybody? It's Mike Jones. Thanks for coming back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. You can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And yes, as I said, talking NFL draft. And it was quite the intriguing draft. Everything went without a hitch, even though it wasn't the normal setup, the normal presentation. I almost felt like this was better. I don't know about you guys, but being able to see the guys all at home with their families, getting to see the coaches and the general managers making the picks with their families and their environments, I thought it went really well, and I thought it was more intriguing. Obviously, a lot of interesting picks, a lot of smart picks, a couple head scratchers, but we're not really going to know until several years from now how this draft will play out. But I wanted to get someone who's been around the league for a long time, and I've got Hue Jackson as a guest today, and he is going to kind of tell me what he thinks about this draft. Obviously, Hue was last coached in Cincinnati with Marvin Lewis. He coached there a number of years, obviously with Cleveland, with the Raiders, with the Ravens, with the Redskins. He's just seen a lot of football, and so I knew that he'd be a great guy to get some insight on this draft, what these rookies can expect, what these coaches have to deal with during this offseason, because he coached during the lockout, and how he had to get guys ready. And so we're going to talk about all that as the Football Jones podcast rolls on. All right, now here we are with Hue Jackson, longtime NFL coach. Really happy to have him here on the podcast. Hue, how's everything?
It's going good, man. Good to talk to you. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, man. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I wanted to pick your brain on the draft and get your thoughts because, you know, you've been through this process many times. You know about evaluating talent and just everything like that. And a lot of the teams, you know, Cincinnati, you got great familiarity with them. So what did you think? I guess it kind of played out at the top the way we thought it was, but how do you think that, Cincinnati will do for Joe Burrow and, you know, as they're starting over again, how do you think that's all going to unfold?
Well, I think the key to it, you know, it'd be hard to judge it in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we need to give it some time, but I thought they had a good draft. They've had a good offseason and free agency to build a better team. And the key to having a quarterback play successfully is to build a good team around them, not just offensively, but also defensively too, and special teams. So it looks like they tried to hit all three corners of a football team that way. But obviously the key piece is Joe Burrow.
Yeah, you've coached quarterbacks. What's the key to, you know, acclimating him to use his strengths, but he's got to learn a whole different way. You know, the NFL game is way different on quarterbacks. The demands are way different than what these guys see in college. So what were the ways that you would handle that when you were coaching quarterbacks and helping them with that transition?
Well, you know, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody this year because normally you get the off season.
Right.
You know, the off-season program is huge for especially a young quarterback coming into the organization, high draft pick, really trying to transition him from the college game to the NFL game. There's a lot of work there to be done. So I just think everybody's going to be behind the eight ball that way a little bit. But you want to take this young man and you got to start him back to all the fundamental footwork, the fundamental decision-making, all the way back to how they study. You know, you really want to lead and coach and give this guy the best opportunity to have success. And I think it starts with coaching.
Now, when you're doing that coaching, how do you hand it to him in a manner that doesn't overwhelm him? Because I imagine when you throw all that on him, you're not going to have a whole lot of time, so you got to cram as much as you can. But is it something where you talk to his coaches before and figure out what he did well, or how do you just take me through that process of learning how your quarterback learns, and then how you help him digest all the information?
I'm gonna say it again. It goes back to this whole process that's different now. You know, you had the guys at the combine, you have them for 15 minutes. You get an idea of how a guy learns. Then normally at the top 30 visits, when you bring a guy on your campus, into the organization, I should say, you get a real good feel for how this guy retains information. I know for me, and I'm sure for most coaches around the National Football League, we normally sent information out to the college prospects, you know, the guys are in the draft, to get a feel for how they learn. And normally when they come on their top 30 visits, we normally go back over that again. And when we went on their campus, we were able to find out even more. So you had an idea of what was going to be the best way for this guy to learn. Is it whole, part, whole? Is it part and then whole, you know, whole? You got to really dig into that to make sure that you do it the right way, because that's going to be the key. Is how do you get the information to the player, but on top of that, how does the player handles the information that you're giving?
Now, for you, obviously, you're familiar with Cincinnati. How do you think that fan base is going to welcome a new chapter? You know, Andy Dalton's been there a long time. Joe Burrow, obviously an Ohio guy, but do you think that, you know, that the excitement level is going to be there as they welcome him in?
Oh, absolutely. And I'd be remiss if I didn't pay kudos to Andy, because I think Andy had a great run in Cincinnati. You know, won a lot of games in the playoffs 5 straight years in a row. I mean, that a lot of people don't even get a chance to see any of that. So please let me make sure that we recognize what he did here. But Joe Burrow, he's got the guy's coming with everything. You know, he's going to bring the fan base new energy. I think there's going to be a new belief in the organization. And now they have to do everything they can to make that a reality. And how you do that is continue to draft and accumulate good players on that team.
Gotcha. Now, a lot of people had said that he was, you know, probably the best college prospect to come out since Andrew Luck. When you looked at him, how did you have him rated? And then how did he stack up against, you know, somebody like Tua?
I had him rated as the best quarterback in this draft, you know, but when people say to come out like Andrew Luck, I mean, they're different players.
Right.
He is the best in the class, in my opinion, this year. Tua was a close second. You take the injuries away, boy, it could have been a coin flip, you know. But at the same time, I think Joe demonstrated this season the way a college quarterback should play and perform week in and week out. He showed that, and he did it at a very, very high level.
Gotcha. So what did you see as you looked at the way the rest of the draft unfold? Who did you like? Who was kind of the team that you felt like, oh, they really had a smart draft? I know a lot of this we won't know till 3-4 years down the road. But when you look at it on the surface, who are some teams that you really liked the way they attacked the draft?
I love what Baltimore did. You know, being in this division for so long, watching how they just continue to reload on their football team. I mean, they're going to be really, really good again, you know, and I think they have a great scouting staff. I think they know what they're doing. They know the players that they need to put on their team, but I thought they did a fantastic job. The Miami Dolphins, you know, and obviously they had the most picks. They had all this one. They had 14 picks to get this thing right, but I thought they did a really good job of plugging some holes. There was a couple of players that no one's heard of, but that's because those guys have done their homework and they feel really good about those players. And then when I look at San Francisco, I mean, I thought San Francisco, again, they're just reloading again. I mean, when you talk about Baltimore, you look at San Francisco, they're taking players. They traded a couple players to watch what they did. I mean, Marcus Goodwin is one of the fastest players in the league.
Yeah.
You know, okay, Marcus, you go to Philadelphia. Oh, Burrito, he's one of the fastest players in the league. You go to Miami. But we just plugged all those holes, you know. And so it's just amazing watching what they do. I thought the Rams got better, you know. So I thought there were some teams that did a really good job. The key will be to watch if these players are able to get into the organization soon enough to make a contribution to the football team. Because if I'm a head coach right now in this league and I don't have my team yet, I'm probably not going to have my team until the summer, right before the season. How am I going to trust these young guys to go play in this grown man's game and win games for me? That's going to be tough. So there's going to be a lot of decisions that are going to have to be driven and really dug into here over the next several months before I say, oh, this team has made all the right decisions.
Yeah, so you've had experience with that. You were coaching in the league with the lockout. How did you guys approach handling young guys coming in? They've got a lot of potential, but there's not a whole lot of time because in that situation there was no OTAs, just like this year, no rookie mini camps. Now they weren't allowed to have any contact with the coaches. This year they can do the virtual stuff and things like that. But how did you guys approach that training camp when it was the first time you were getting to see guys?
What we tried to do is make it as seamless as we could, not make it a big point, but have everybody understand we need you to be all in. We can't have you in by degrees or trying to figure out if this is okay or if that's okay. We need you all in, and we need guys to hit the ground running. And the fun part for me when I was in Oakland, we took some young receivers, Jacoby Ford, Denarius Moore. We didn't really have any other guys at the position.
Okay.
So they got a ton of reps, so they just kept repping with the good players, and you look up and they became really good players for us that year. Might be a little bit different and difficult this year, different set of circumstances as you mentioned, but I would hope that these young players truly understand, and I'm sure the coaches are monitoring and telling them the things they need to do to have a chance to have success this season, because you just want a player who's his first year in the league to get his own personal wins. You want him to feel good about what he's doing so he can grow. The hard part is when a guy, if he doesn't get those personal wins because he doesn't understand the defense or the offense or special team, and then he starts off bad, and sometimes guys can't recover.
Do you think that, when I had talked to Ron Rivera, he was talking about let's just stress the basics. Will that hurt teams out the gates because they have to have more vanilla attacks? Or is it one of those things where, look, if you can do the basics well, we'll branch off and everybody's kind of in the same boat?
Well, I think that's coach speak. All us coaches going to do what we think it takes to win. We're going to do everything and put our players in positions to have success. No coach is going to stand in front of his team and say, okay, we're just going to do the basics, and however that happens, we'll see if we can win or not. No. They're going to do everything they can, and what's going to require is for these young players to get up to speed really fast. The mental aspect of the game is going to change for them. The physical won't be as difficult, but the mental piece, like you said, the volume of information that a player is going to have to know might go twofold just because you don't have as much time.
Gotcha. So how far back your coaching career in the NFL was that? Did they have OTAs when you first started?
No.
They didn't. Okay, right. So when you guys first got them, it was training camp. What were those install days like? How much did you load on a guy, on a team, a squad position group with that?
We loaded it up pretty good. I mean, because everybody has a different philosophy. You can load it all up and restart it and do it all over again because normally you had enough time in training camp. Some people don't do that. They just kind of work it through. So by the time they hit the first preseason game, they've kind of, got a plan. Some people really start to work what their plan's going to be for the first and second game of the regular season. Mm-hmm. There's all kind of ways to do it. I think the most important thing is you have to put the players in position to have success, especially the quarterback. So if your quarterback's practicing really good and the defense sees him practicing really good and the offense sees him practicing really good, well, everybody starts feeling like you have a pretty good team.
Yeah.
So everything you do is really geared to the quarterback. Practice is truly for him. And the rest of it, everybody has to find a way to fit in.
Gotcha. What are some of those ways that you kind of script a practice or try to set that quarterback up so he does have that success, even though you kind of need to put him in difficult situations as well, so he's tested?
Absolutely. It's the environment you create. Blitz drills, backed up, scoring zone, all those different situations that happen 2 minutes. You want to make sure that you put him, like you say, I'm testing him in those particular areas, but I need him also to have success. So if I'm going to have a 2-minute drill and every time the quarterback goes out there spraying out, if it's against the ones, I'm going to make sure the next time he's going against the twos.
Okay.
I need him to have some success, and I'm not going to manufacture it. I just think by the way I call plays and the environment I put him in and the drill, I think I can control that by what I call. So that's my way of helping him and building that confidence so the guy feels good and the offensive team feels good. And there's a time for the defense to have that confidence too. So you work you work all those things with your staff, because we know when we come out of training camp, we have to have a very confident, rugged, tough, smart football team in order to win football.
People were asking me, and I said I felt like this draft was going to play out in the way that the good teams were going to be okay, and the teams that normally struggle were going to struggle. And I think that, with this whole coronavirus and not knowing when people are going to get back to training camp, probably the stronger teams are going to be the ones that are going to handle that as the best that they will, that they can as well. Do you feel that way? And, when you look at these teams, who do you have the most confidence that they'll be able to kind of weather this type of storm as whenever they get back to work?
That's a great point. I really think the teams that handle the mental piece of this, because virtual off-season programs started today for 20 teams. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what does that mean? Because it's voluntary. Is every guy going to really lock on when he's at home and his kids are crawling all over him? Is he really going to be locked in, for that particular 2 hours? Is he going to be able to maintain it over the duration of time that we got to have? So, and then where is he at mentally? I mean, where's my team at mentally when they hit the field, when everybody says, okay, you can go back? Me and you both know there's still going to be some guys that are going to be scared to be in the locker room. There's going to be guys that's going to be scared to practice. So that's why I say the mental aspect of getting your team ready to come back, to get ready to deal with all the uncertainty, because we all know until there's a vaccine that's an issue. Mm-hmm. How do you go do this? Well, you've heard all the stories. We're going to quarantine them in a hotel, and they all got to stay together. When do they ever see their families?
Right.
Well, if we go play an away game and if somebody gets sick, how do we handle that? He's not coming back on a plane with us. Well, who's staying with him? How are we going to walk? I mean, what is that going to look like? So I think there's so many things that are unknown. So the team that can answer a lot of those questions coming out of this are going to be the teams that really elevate themselves. And when I think of a team, because I've been there and I know what to do, is Baltimore. Mm-hmm. Because they have a veteran coach. He's going to cross every T. He's going to dot every I. He's going to find out all the medical information first, because if I don't talk to my team about medically what's going on, they don't care about what's going on in the X and O's. Mm-hmm. Am I going to be okay? Because I'm the breadwinner for not just myself, my family, my other families, and this and this and that. So that's what people are going to have to deal with first. And then let's talk football.
Gotcha. I think that AFC North is going to be really an intriguing conference there. When you think about, Baltimore and then Pittsburgh, obviously, people were, questioning, Mike Tomlin, but he got them to, weather a lot of adversity, obviously the new chapter in Cleveland and, Cincinnati. But really, when you look at that division, I feel like it's going to be pretty fascinating to watch it unfold.
Well, it will be. I mean, Pittsburgh had one of the best defenses last year. Just imagine if they had a legitimate backup quarterback. They wouldn't have made the playoffs. Yeah. Baltimore is the prize of the division. Cleveland has a ton of talent. Cincinnati's on their way back. How fast will they make the transition? Obviously, I think the division still will come down between Baltimore and Pittsburgh because of one, Ben Roethlisberger being back, and two, you got the MVP over there in Baltimore. So it's a tremendous competitive conference, and it's who can play good and who can get hot at the right time.
Gotcha. Were you surprised at all watching the draft of the Patriots that, obviously they're starting over at quarterback, no quarterback taken there? Did that surprise you at all? Or should we know by now that Bill Belichick's not going to do what anybody expects him to do?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it surprised me in the fact that, like you said, they didn't find a guy or try to maneuver to trade for a guy, but they probably found that there was no way they were going to get one of the really good quarterbacks, so why put a guy on your team just to put him on your team? Let's wait it out. Cam Newton's out there. Jameis Winston's out there. I mean, he may not be out there anymore, but
Yeah.
There's a lot of other guys who are serviceable that they can bring in there. So I get it, but no one knows what all that was behind the scenes.
Right. Yeah, as you mentioned Cam and Jameis just came off the market, going to the Saints to learn. And I had thought a good situation for him would have been going to Pittsburgh, learning behind Big Ben because, big arm quarterback. But anyway, he's going to go learn behind a veteran guy. But the Cam Newton still being out there is a little bit mind-bending to me. And I know he's coming off of injury and everything like that. What do you think happens with Cam?
I think somebody signs him. He's going to get signed. He's too good of a talent not to. Now, is he the same? He's not the same player, obviously, as he was when he was rookie. And hopefully, mentally, he's better. So I think he can help somebody get to the next level. But it's got to be the right situation, as it does for all these guys.
What kind of a system or scheme would you coach up for Cam at this stage of his career to get him to maximize his success?
Well, obviously, he can still throw it. I just don't know where he is from an injury standpoint because when he's really good is when he's the dual threat. Right. That's the Cam Newton we all know and love. Obviously, I think hopefully the shoulder injury is behind him. This foot injury, hopefully that's behind him too. Where is he at? Is he a lesser? Obviously, he's going to be a lesser version. But what is that version? I mean, Robert Griffin was a lesser version, but he's still playing National Football League. So what does that version look like? What can he do? And then we build it. You build an offense based upon what his strengths and what his weaknesses are.
Right. And for him, I mean, I look at him and I still think if he's healthy, he's got to be a starter, right? Or do you think it's going to be a situation where he's going to have to go in as a backup somewhere?
He might. You just never know unless it's, the Patriots. You look at Jameis Winston was a starter.
Right.
He's making a decision to go to New Orleans to learn and grow, because he wants to make the most out of his career. Cam might be in a different situation. I don't know that. I don't know if he looks at it that he needs to grow that way. He didn't throw 36 interceptions,
Right.
That's a different deal. So, but I think every quarterback can always get better. And if you can watch and learn and pick up something from somebody who's done it at a high level, well, it makes you better.
Gotcha. When you look at this young crop of guys coming out, who are you most excited about seeing? And I'm not just talking quarterbacks, but of this year's draft class, who are you most excited about seeing how it all unfolds for them?
I think all these receivers, the receiver class, which was strong. The thing that I think people didn't give enough respect to is the running back class. Mm-hmm. I think the running back class is just as strong, but they didn't have the buildup that the receivers did. I mean, Jonathan Taylor to go where he went, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I think the guy's one of the best running backs in the draft. The kid from Utah, Moss. I mean, I think all these guys are really good players, and I think they're getting, people are sleeping on them a little bit, but I think I can't wait to see how the receivers end up this year to watch Ruggs go before all the other guys. I was shocked at that, to watch Cam Akers go before some of the other running backs. I was shocked at that, But obviously they've done their homework, hopefully, and those teams made sure that those teams those players, I should say, fit what they need to do.
It's still a situation where the running backs get diminished in this league. People always talk about it's a passing league, but any team that we've seen that had success in the last several years always has a strong running game. So why do you think that is? That it's still like kind of a devalued situation or position, even though you got to have that run game?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because there's been so much emphasis put on the pass. Mm-hmm. When you look at everybody says it's a passing league, but you just said it. The teams that are really successful are what? They're running the ball.
Yeah.
Look at San Francisco. Look at Baltimore. Look at the Chiefs. Even though he throws it all over the place, they still run the football. Yeah. You have to be able to run the ball. It's still the grit and grind of the game. This is football. And the teams that are more physical are still the teams that win. So if you can't run it, you're probably not going to win a lot. And you're not going to win a lot when it matters most. So I really shrug when people say, well, the running backs are not important anymore. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. It depends on who you're playing for.
All right. And speaking of a running back, what are your thoughts on Todd Gurley starting over, going to Atlanta? What can we expect from Todd?
I think, if he's healthy, he's going to go back and play as good as he's ever played. I don't know what that injury is. Obviously, it was something for the Rams to let him go. You don't let good players go. That is, I don't care what nobody said. You don't let good players out your building. So obviously, he's not the same version of himself. But what is he? And what is he going to be on that turf? So we're going to find out, because the turf for a player sometimes can be detrimental. And for some guys, they play even faster. So hopefully that he'll be in the latter of that conversation that way.
Gotcha. Good deal. Well, I won't hold you much longer. I did want to know, what would your advice be to a young guy, whether he's a rookie, whether he's a couple years in, or even a guy like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, who've had a little bit of success early on, but this is a weird offseason for them. What would your advice be on how they should approach this and getting ready for this coming season, even though there's so much uncertainty?
The first thing I would probably tell them, I hope they're watching The Last Dance.
Okay. Yeah.
That guy had singleness of purpose. He knew what he wanted to do, and he wasn't going to let anything stand in his way. He wanted to win, and he knew where he was deficient at. He worked at it. And I would hope all these young players, whether they're going to be on the front of and whatever this video game is that Lamar Jackson's going to be on, or Patrick Mahomes was on the one last year. There's work to be done. Now at this young age is when you got to grind. The great ones understood that, and they grinded mentally as well as physically. And so if a guy is doing that, just because we're in this pandemic and the lockdown, there's still people doing work.
Right.
So hopefully those guys are doing everything to improve their skill mentally and physically, so that when they get ready to come back, they hit the ground running. Because the key will be these quarterbacks and again, the team, how the team comes out of it.
Now, you mentioned The Last Dance, and I think that everybody who's a sports fan has been just watching. I mean, I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan, but just so fascinating, just all the little pieces that had to go into place and the adversity they dealt with. It's pretty amazing that they won that last championship when you think about it. As a coach, can you imagine what does it take to manage all those personalities and have them focus like they did to block out even when management is almost working against you?
Oh, I understood it. Maybe not to the level where management was working against you, but having alpha males who have different agendas sometimes, but who still want the same thing. But in the team circle, how do you make it all fit and work? Chad Johnson was different than TJ Houshmandzadeh,
right?
Was different than Chris Henry, But I had to find a way for those guys to get the information, work together, but give them a little bit of, let them be who they were. Because when you let Chad be who he was the best in football. When you didn't let Chad be who he wasn't the best in football. That's just what it is. Well, there's Dennis Rodman, but you had a player, Michael Jordan, who held him accountable, So I think that happens, and somebody said it, I forget this morning, that happens on everybody's team.
Okay.
And it all depends on how are you managing those guys. Are you kind of pushing those guys to the wayside and where they're not going to play? Or are you giving those guys what they need so that they give the team? Because we can say what we want. Players want to win. Mm-hmm. All these players that are playing, they want to win. If they think a player can help them win, they're willing to understand what this player is going through, long as you make it, make it right. You do it the right way. Players get it. They really do.
When did you learn that the key to managing Chad Johnson?
Well, I probably learned over time, just he wanted to be the best at what he did, but he also wanted to have his personality.
Okay.
Well, his personality wasn't stopping me from him becoming a great player, so I was going to push on the player side. If you want to leave here and go do shows and go run against horses and go do all that stuff, that's on you. That's your time. I'm tired of you calling me at 2 a.m, but if that's what you wanted to do, go do it. But that's what made him great. That's what he fed off of. And to me, as soon as I heard that they were taking that away from him, he wasn't the same player. You have to let people be who they are. And I think that's what the great coaches do. They understand that they have a guy that may be a little different. That coach makes sure the team understands that he's a little bit different. Not that we're breaking rules or doing things differently. We're going to hold him accountable. But, man, this guy ain't going to make it unless we do something to give him a chance to be the best version of himself.
That's 2 a.m. phone calls, huh?
Oh, my God. Many a nights. And just to say hello. And what's the game plan? How many times am I going to get the ball? Oh, yeah. I dealt with that a lot.
Wow. So who was the most Michael Jordan mentality locked in guy that you've ever coached?
Oh man. That is a good question. I don't know that I coached him, and I didn't coach him, but I watched him. The
Mhm.
guy who I will forever remember in my football career is watching Ray Lewis.
Okay.
Ray Lewis was the most focused, wired individual I've ever been around. And I try to compete with him every day from an offense defense standpoint. We yell and scream at each other, get after each other all the time because he was on top of it. I was trying to break him while he was trying to break the offense. And that's the reason why people don't get it. That's why those Baltimore teams were so good. The defense was so great. They competed against the offense, and the offense had to raise their level just to be on the field with those guys. So he was amazing that way. Amazing.
And that's something you have to have. I mean, you can kind of try to teach lessons and guys can adapt to and follow along a leader, but you can't really coach that, can you?
You said it. Guys got it. You guys recognize phoniness, Players know players, and guys recognize when people are being real. And it's either in you or it's not. When I first watched Ray talk to the team in Baltimore, I said, maybe this is just who he is. He hit it right one time. He brought out a good speech, and here it was. No, that's just who he was every day, 365 days a year. That's who Ray Lewis is. And you just said it. People either have it or they don't.
Well, Hue, I really appreciate your time. It's been great rapping with you. We're going to have to do this again because, man, I feel like we could go on for a couple more hours and all the stories I'm sure you got.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. You have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right, there you have it. Hope you guys have a great day. Hope you enjoyed that episode. It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. Obviously, the virtual off-season programs are all getting going today, as you said. Guys are at least studying film, trying to make sure they are ready, mentally prepared as much as they can be until they get back to work. And then I think in a couple weeks, the regular season schedule will be released. That'll be interesting to see when and where everybody is playing, and we'll take it from there. But hope you guys have a great week. Again, read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ByMikeJones. Take this link, share it with your friends if you will. Give me a review. Thanks, and have a great one.